Hey guys, Thomas Sully Jr. here, aka Mustached. I'm here to finally review the movie Teen Titans Go to the Movies. And if you haven't seen my other video about Teen Titans, which I was under the persona of Zeke Dartel, I did go on a little bit more of a tangent on the overall thing, saying that stuff was, not great. And I challenged them, as I normally do with any other superhero slash supervillain, and I did it before the movie even came out. I had said that the poster's message about there being no more superhero movies got on a bit of a personal level because, for those of you who don't know, when I was a kid, I wrote about a superhero team, and I always dreamt of them being their own new superheroes and them getting their own superhero movie, which I did publish as a book called Syndicate X. And that is where the persona of Zeke Dartel even came from. So there's that little bit of history for you before we can even begin this movie review. And just to give quick reference to another video I made before I can officially begin, is that I initially said that in one of my previous videos that the Teen Titan Go series wasn't as bad as people were initially saying. It just wasn't as good as the OG Teen Titans show, which is still the case, and even parts of this movie kind of indicate that, as they really roll out some of the good action scenes here that are actually present in some or very few Teen Titans Go episodes, which I do think should have been the majority of episodes if they didn't want to get all this flack in the first place. If they had just treated the Teen Titans Go like this from the very start and just avoided all the fart jokes and just had really interesting fight sequences and had the heroes be who they really were initially, and just had all the drama and tension of the original show, even with this animated style, I think this show could have been fantastic. I think it could have been as good as the original OG Teen Titans, but no, they went for over comedy, and it suffered through its character. That's one thing that this movie did. And just to go even further, the whole premise of this I do think is a bit ridiculous. Robin, as we later or quickly come to realize, wants to get his own theatrical movie. Now, of course, for those of you who don't know, or you probably would know if you're actually a fan of Teen Titans, the Teen Titans actually have two movies, technically. Straight to DVD, but they're technically really movies of them. There's the one where they go to Japan, and there's the other one which involves Damian Wayne and the alternate versions of some of the other Titans as well. So the Teen Titans have had their movies. I even did a review of them having their movie against Batman, or I believe it was called Teen Titans versus the Justice League or something like that. Another animated DC movie of the more serious variety. So the Teen Titans have had their fare of movies, so I think Robin's claim of needing a theatrical release is pretty ridiculous. Not to mention, on top of that, the whole thing of them having that whole serious counterpart, the Teen Titans thing that's exclusive to Netflix, I believe, is even further in the opposite direction, which is something that people have criticized as well. So Teen Titans fans either have to deal with the over-comedy spectrum or the over-dark spectrum, not realizing what made the OG series good in the first place, which, to put it simplistically, is that it had a bit of everything. It had a bit of action, it had a bit of drama, it had character, most importantly, and yeah, it had comedy, and it had romance, and it had a lot of other elements to it. But that's what made the show so good, is that it was able to balance these things. And that's something that has been severely missing, and I really hate that I'm just going to spoil it now before I can even talk about what happens in the movie. That at the end of the movie, the end credits sequence is the OG Teen Titans saying, "Oh, we found a way back." Now, I have incredible issue with this. Now, I'm not sure if this is the case. I meant to probably look this up before. I'm going to do something I've never done before, well, actually I've done this once before, is actually Google something while I am currently recording. I am going to, because I know that the Rotten Tomatoes score for this is probably still in the 90s, but I want to make 100% sure. So I'm going to go ahead and type that Teens Go to the Movies. Rotten Tomatoes. I really want to check something here. Alright, so what are we sitting at here? Because there was the joke that it was one of the highest DC slash movies overall. And there's one other movie that I am gonna be absolutely yeah, it's still at 91 on the tomato meter, and the audience reception is at 71. But there's one other movie I have to check. I have to see what they did. So just remember that movie, percent. It was 71. And the movie I'm going to compare this to is the Lego Batman movie. The Lego Batman movie. I'm going to see if they actually did it. See if they actually surpassed the Lego Batman movie. Alright, give it a little few seconds to load here. I'm not going to show it on the thing because I can't. But Google it yourself so you can see. So the Lego Batman movie is more popular overall, in 80%. I'm actually really glad about that. I was actually gonna get really upset if people actually found this movie better than the Lego Batman movie, because I do think the Lego Batman movie is a bit better in the comedy aspect. So there's that. Whew, that's a sigh of relief. Check that out for yourselves if you don't believe me. But, anyways, getting into my notes here. Getting into the actual movie, putting all the biases aside, and being upset that they're still doing scummy practices like holding up the ransom of the continuation of the OG Teen Titans behind a movie and how well it does. I do think that's still incredibly scummy. I do think they just should have been able to continue it without being able to cancel it in the first place. So I just wanted to get that out there too. Anyways, getting into the actual recap of things, we do start off with a big giant pink monster called the Inflated Destroyer, which is actually destroying the city, which is again something that's pretty rare on the show since, again, most of the episodes are comedic in nature. And the police try to stop them, and the Teen Titans arrive on the scene. And they start fighting it. Starfire's like trying to hug it. The little balloons it's sending out. Raven makes it punch itself. Beast Boy spikes it using its little things, bringing up our first fart joke in the first few seconds. They bring up other superhero movies. Interestingly, they were able to bring up the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is Marvel, and we do have a Stan Lee cameo, which again is Marvel. So they do take some jabs at Marvel for the first time, which is comparison to Deadpool, I suppose. But I do think they fall in the same line as Deadpool. As you probably know, it's not one of my favorite Marvel movies, and if in fact, it's one of my least favorite Marvel movies. If you've seen my reviews of either the first or second movie. Anyways, they start singing away, doing their little rap intro, introducing themselves, while Superman and the rest of the Justice League actually do the saving of the day. And they say that they are going to see a movie based on the Justice League. Nonetheless, they make an actual Green Lantern joke, which seems to be a consistent thing between Deadpool and this. Is doing that joke and running it into the ground. We get it. It was a bad movie. We had that joke before, and it's kind of getting old. Anyways, they arrive on the red carpet, and they end up seeing that they are not made on the list. So, they meet our female, Jade Wilson, which is literally just a one letter removal and a change of one letter of the name of our main actual villain, Slade Wilson. Literally shares the same last name, so we kind of already know Slade is the bad guy here, obviously. Anyways, they make their way into the movie set, or the movie sit down, and they see that the promotions for the next movies affiliated are Alfred gets a movie, and Batman gets his little Batmobile to get a movie, and then his utility belt gets a movie. And Robin made his way up to the stage, crying his way off, very akin to almost the SpongeBob movie, kind of like, oh, you know, he's gonna get the promotion, and he makes his way up, and then we've seen this, thing happen in several other movies. So anyways, when he's alone, he talks about his past, and they bring up how he needs to have a proper villain, which, if they had seen the original Teen Titans, they would know that the actual villain is Slade. So it's weird how in this movie they make it seem as though Slade was never properly their villain until this movie, which it makes no sense. Even in the series, they had that episode where they were mentioning Slade a whole bunch, so again, the whole thing of them needing a villain kind of seems out of nowhere. Anyways, they plan to get a nemesis, so while that's going on, Slade attacks some guys, and when they make their way to him, they again make the joke that he's like Deadpool, except, you know, Deathstroke technically came out first, and Deadpool's the ripoff, and blah blah blah. Anyways, they keep going, saying his name in a dramatic fashion, wasting a lot of time. And then Slade does his bit where he uses mind control, which is just a set of illusionary tricks, like making a pencil wiggle and then fake removing his thumb, and then he gets away. Again, this is I think they could have done a much better job. Slade in the original OG series was a very menacing villain, and I think that some of the comedy could have worked stronger if he had maintained that level of being, you know, an actual menacing villain. Again, there's that loss of balance in this movie. Beast Boy and Cyborg were originally set to be the comic relief in the OG series, while the other characters were there to offset that. They were there to make that balance, but there is no balance here. Everyone is the comic relief. And when everyone is in the comic relief, it's like no one is. We've heard that joke before. When you try to please everyone, you end up pleasing no one, is sort of the thing I'm trying to say here. Anyways, Slade gets away, and Robin starts to sit alone, and then when he starts to dream, it goes into this weird thing where the drawing style changes, and they do some sort of Lion King reference with all the other superheroes, and then Batman lifting him up and then tossing him aside when everyone keeps making fun of him for being a sidekick. So he sits down alone and continues to ponder. And Cyborg plays a little cassette tape, playing this generic lift up type music to lift him up. And the art style changes while they sing along with this tiger, and then they proceed to run him over and then flee the scene. So they portal their way inside the studio via Raven, which she does that a lot in this movie, making portals. They get there to the studio to make their official Stan Lee cameo, even though it's a DC movie, but that's the joke. And they start to record Batman vs. Superman 2, and they bring up the whole Martha thing there. And, you know, kind of making jabs at that as well, I suppose. Anyways, they inspire Robin to demand his little movie, and thus he proceeds to start to sing to the director, while the art style once again changes very slightly this time, and he's singing about how he would make this cool super action superhero movie with all these, you know, cool special effects and stuff like that. And the director says there's no way unless there were no other heroes. So we then cut to a scene where we spent a lot of time making unnecessary jokes for absolutely no reason, as this next sequence is actually here to try to make us laugh, but initially just there to waste even more time in the movie. So they suggest time travel, and they make their little time travel bikes, and they make their way back in time. They first visit Krypton and do this little song, and they save Superman, then proceed to save Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and finally Batman, making him not go down Criminal Alley, which is, apparently that's actually what it's really called. Nonetheless, there's no more superheroes, and thus, when they return to their own timeline, everything is in actual chaos. Thus showing that, very clearly, they need the superheroes in order to do their little thing. So they go back, and they redo everything. They place everything back to the way it was, and they place a pearl necklace on the mother for the crime alley when they sent Martha down the path into Criminal Alley. And that's pretty much their darkest death joke I think this show has, or the movie actually does. And I don't think that joke quite reaches even though it's a death joke, I still don't think it quite reaches the level of the pedophile joke made in Lego Batman, which I do think is one of the funnier jokes in that entire movie, and has only gotten funnier the more and more people use that word, and, especially on YouTube. That's probably why I find that so humorous myself. Besides, Lego Batman actually having actual character in it, unlike this movie. So anyways, they do all that just to reset everything and then go back to hunting Slade. So they regain the plot, finally, and Slade tries to trick them some more, but they are not falling for it this time. And he does blast them back with the sword, and they actually have a pretty good fighting scene. Now again, I do want to emphasize that there are some episodes of Teen Titans Go where there are actual fighting scenes. I believe one of the first, and I believe one of the ones I remember was called Girls' Night, I believe. I do believe that had a fighting scene where they make, I don't know if it was called that, but it involved one of the Southern villainess escaping from jail, and then Raven and Starfire kind of hang out with her I think it's just Raven that hangs out with her until she realizes what she's doing, and then they actually have a really good fighting sequence. Again, if Teen Titans Go did that in every episode, then I don't think there actually would have ever been an issue with the art style changing. I do want to keep emphasizing this because I do think that the creators completely missed the point. It has nothing to do with, I'm not, maybe I'm speaking personally, but I never had an issue with them changing the art style. I had an issue with them changing the characters. Anyways, they fly after Slade, and Beast Boy and Cyborg get attacked, and they need to get rescued by Raven and Starfire. And Robin mentions this vault to Slade out loud, where they bring this crystal, which is what Slade was using to start this Doomsday mind control thing, and they hid it in this vault, as I mentioned. So Slade again blasts them down, that being Beast Boy and Cyborg. And Slade attempts to tell Robin how the movie needs to actually get done with him getting away, and he does. And as soon as that happens, Jade wants to see them immediately afterwards, as meaning that he got away, got into the costume, and immediately did the whole bit. And then they were invited to the list and introduced to this set. They make a long gag of making a poop joke where they all say they pooped in this fake toilet. And they see that a fake Slade comes onto the set, and they proceed to beat him up, and when he takes on the helmet and reveals that it's, quote, Shia LaBeouf, they go to keep beating him up. And then the team goes on this montage of more shenanigans. They called Superman, and they use the fake Lois thing, and then they use Kryptonite later on to stop him. Anyways, the others gang on their little thing, while Jade explains that her broadcast will send off this, thing that will mind control thing, and then she explains the whole thing in a vague way where all the others know that she's up to something, but Robin doesn't know. Thus, she says to Robin that he can get his own exclusive solo movie, and of course he says yes to it. So the others apparently go back to whatever they were doing before, even though I think they could have just gone back to doing whatever they were doing before without actually having to go to wherever they were going. Nonetheless, Robin gets the little montage of them proceeding to make the movie, and this one little fangirl has a Teen Titans Go poster, which makes Robin reminisce about the times and images of them. So, anyways, Robin feels bad about, leaving them behind. So, as he's proceeding to make the movie, though, he does this whole bit where he's setting up for putting this gem in or getting it out or something along those lines, and he gets knocked out, and when he wakes up he does not realize he has been moved into the real base and proceeds to open it. And Slade removes his lady costume that he had, that was the whole thing all along. Thus he proceeds to blow up Titan's tower and actually have Robin use his abilities of his little grappling hook to get away. So Robin calls the others and gives a little speech, and the others already have arrived on the scene, getting back to his location somehow, knowing exactly where it was. And Slade preps up to the movie disguised as Jade. But the Teen Titans arrive just on time, but Slade activates the device, and all the other heroes are then possessed and chase after the Titans. So they start to escape via cart, and they try to stop Batman, but they see that nothing is able to stop Batman, joke included. Stanley makes his second cameo appearance, and then they knock him out. And Raven brings the other heroes into the portal, but Slade is able to stop Robin in the process. And then they fight each other mano a mano. And Slade seems to get the upper hand using these screens about the whole movie thing to his advantage until the rest of the team arrives, only to see that Robin is now officially under his control. But the others remind him of what he used to be by showing him their little custom movie that they made earlier in the movie, even though it was supposed to be this whole startup of a joke, and then it ends up being like a little, like, hey, you saved us from being, complete garbage and being on our own, and stuff of that nature, which is able to get him snapped out of it. However, Slade has a backup plan, setting out a mecha, and Raven attempts to use the portal, but the mecha robot is too big. Thus, the Teen Titans say that they are going to use their rap song as they use their team prowess in that rap song to take Slade down once and for all. So the heroes snap out of it and they actually clap for the Teen Titans. And Robin sends a little last question about where do babies come from, and that's where the movie does officially end. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, they show off the original the OG Teen Titans, saying that they found a way back. Okay, so what are my thoughts now that the recap is done? I think, as I mentioned before, it's very crystal clear that this movie has no clue what it meant for the OG Teen Titans to even exist in the first place was. They didn't understand the balance, whoever put this together. They didn't understand what made the Teen Titans special. And they just kind of went about making the Teen Titans go from there. There were some, again, exceptional episodes of the series, but just because you have some exceptional episodes does not make your show that good. Now again, I don't say that the show was bad, but again, I can't say with definitive, certainty that the show is good either. It's just there. And that's kind of the worst thing to be sometimes, is just there, and that's what this movie feels like. It's just there, and the characters again feel so lost, and they're all too heavy on the trying to attempt comedy, and even having one joke work, which again I only honestly think one did, which is the whole mother thing, doesn't make a good movie. Again, all the other attempts just kind of are there. Maybe the Stanley thing was kind of funny, I guess. But I mean, that's just the thing. It's just like, I guess it was okay. But that's the thing, is that this movie doesn't realize how comedy works. And I do think that a lot of comedy movies of recent years have also made this issue, and it's here as it's prevalent in this movie as well, is that they don't take time to establish character, they don't take time to establish the heart of the movie, and that's why the comedy doesn't work as well. When you look at a show like The Last Airbender, again, it's that balance, and when the comedy when they take time to do their little comedy bits, it's funnier because the characters are established, and sometimes when the jokes aren't even related to them, it's like this whole other thing. It just feels so out of place that it's funnier. It's funnier because it doesn't fit. That's the joke. But here, everything is trying over the top, over the barrel to be funny, and when everything is trying to be funny, nothing is. Nothing sticks. There's no sense of balance. And that's where this movie struggles. And I hate that this idea that people felt they needed to give this movie high reviews and high scores on the concept that if they didn't, that somehow that they wouldn't release the OG Teen Titans Season 6. I feel like that's massive manipulation in the completely wrong spectrum, the completely wrong way to go about doing this. And again, Teen Titans have their own movies. I don't... The whole thing about going theatrical to me doesn't make a whole bunch of difference, really. I mean, there are plenty of good straight to DVD DC movies, most of them being animated. They're fantastic. That's fantastic. Teen Titans, I just mentioned in the beginning, has their Japan movie, and then the other one with Damian Wayne. They have their movies. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think this movie was a waste of time, and I think people giving, you know, this, you know, give credit to this movie way too much because they saw that thing at the end and they went, oh man, maybe I should go easy on it because that will somehow, you know, I don't know if that's how reviewers truly feel, but I don't know, I just feel like that's so manipulative, and I don't think this movie's that great. I don't think this movie's good. I don't really, you know, there's not enough character, there's not enough heart. And they try to throw in some scenes where there's like that moment of like Robin being alone, but the problem is that Robin isn't set up as a proper character. He kind of is, but he's like more like a diet Robin, if that makes any sense. There's not enough time to actually establish him as, you know, as it is. It feels more like a recap of Robin more than the actual character. And that feels like there's a lot missing there. And that the same could be said even more so for the other heroes as well. Especially Starfire. She seems in the most shafted. Raven just kind of going along with everyone else, you know. They're kind of, again, all in this one bubble. And when they're all in that one bubble, it doesn't feel like a unique team. It just feels like one thing that's just moving along, and again, there's nothing unique about that. There's nothing special about that. The team aspect doesn't work when everything works the same way in that team. So I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a 2 out of 10, which is, I believe, is what I gave Deadpool, or I think I gave Deadpool a 3 out of 10. Regardless, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10. And the only reason I'm even giving it a 2 is because, again, that one joke that landed, and again, some of the animation and fighting sequences are actually pretty solid. Other than that, this movie is completely unnecessary and complete filler and just absolutely manipulative. You know, it manipulated us into thinking like, oh, we need to like say, hey, go see this movie because then they'll bring back Teen Titans OG. Why didn't you just bring back Teen Titans OG? Like, that's the question I'm gonna keep asking, no matter what. So, you know, or better yet, you know, if that never happened, let's say that end credit sequence never happened, but this movie did, and it just ended, and it came out sooner in the cycle of Teen Titans Go, and they started to realize that having more of a balance within their action and actually started to shift back into that way, then I don't think there would have been as much issue from Teen Titans going forward if they just actually showed that they are listening to people and actually taking the time to actually write episodes that involve all the other elements that made Teen Titans OG so good in the first place. I think if they had done that way sooner, like probably way closer to the 100th episode. I know they're like an episode like probably like 300 by now. I don't know. There's a lot of episodes, but probably even sooner than that. Like, they probably should have made this movie around episode 50 by, you know, around that time, if anything, and then just sort of kind of shifted the balance again to feel more like the characters that we, of the fans of the show, have come to know. Anyways, that's my review slash rant on Teen Titans Go to the Movies. It's kind of garbage. It's just kind of there. And if you saw this review, and if you enjoyed it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out that link in the description. I'll head you over to my Patreon page, and any donations are greatly appreciated. Until next time, everyone, bye-bye.